Prabhupada ki, Shri Bonitai ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Yogadan ki, Shri Brahmadeva ki, Shri Lakshmana Srinadeva ki, Shri Radha Madhava ki, Namaya Purdam ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai, Harinama Sankirtan ki, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled. Glories to Sri Guru Brahma. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prachadini Nirvasesh Samjivadi Asitade Shatade Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We may need a French translation. Mice, of course. What is your good name?
Sebastian.
Sebastian? Sebastian, Mice. Any ladies need a French translation? So who will translate? You are doing many services at once, Chitralila. You're a multitasker? Okay, so the two Prabhus, maybe adjust yourselves. Chitralila. By the way, Chitralila is now working with the BBT, translating and proofreading and editing upcoming books in French. What are you working on right now? 12th Canto Srimad Bhagavatam. Proofreading? Proofreading at 12th Canto. Did you finish on Prabhupada Lilamrita? Or you didn't do that? That's already finished. It's almost ready for printing.
What? Lilamrita?
Lilamrita. Well, the abridged version, you're ever well. Just proofreading was done before. So there's nothing new translation. But they may have done some proofreading, but it's almost ready for reprint. As is Chant and Be Happy. It's almost ready to print. And ready for printing is Science of Self-Realization. And we're working on the 10th, 11th and 12th cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Chitralila and Helen is also working, is she? Helen?
Yes.
On sometimes?
The one with the Maharaja book.
I'm talking about the BBT here.
Yeah, she's working with BBT.
Is she not helping you?
She does sometimes with
She does help sometimes. Very good. So slowly we try to get the remainder of the Srimad Bhagavatam into print in French. The Srimad Bhagavatam is, people don't realize just how important the Srimad Bhagavatam is to the world's fate, the fate of the world. So, thank you for the BBT is a little bit happy at last that there are some younger members of our, let's say, community who are taking part in the BBT. It's so important to have these Prabhupada's books and the books. available for the present and future devotee population and for the public in general, so they may also devotion may awaken in their hearts. See, now we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. We're still on the translations of Srila Prabhupada's direct translation and purport here, up to chapter 13. I'm a little, not surprised, but it's interesting to note that several temples I've been to recently are on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is likened to the face of the Lord. The Lord's, well, particularly in the 10th canto, the face of the Lord. Each canto is likened to a particular part of the Lord's body, his transcendental form, and helps us to gradually understand the nature of the Supreme Person, starting from the soles of the lotus feet, all the way up to this 10th canto. And here we are. In the 10th canto there are 90 chapters, and we're on chapter 2. Take a while. And the smiling face, the very smiling face of the Lord, comes a little bit later, the intimate pastimes of the Lord. But now we're taking a very important step in this chapter 2. It's entitled Prayers by the Demigods. The demigods are appointed servants of the Lord, just like we don't have kings much now. We have prime ministers and presidents, and they have their cabinet. They're appointed treasurers, chancellors, home ministers, health ministers, this one, that one, to help in the administration of the country, taking responsibility on behalf of the government. Modern society, previously in behalf of the king. But in one sense the president has, or a prime minister has, the superior power over others when it comes to the final decision. Not entirely, but to a larger extent. So in the case of Krishna, who's the origin of everything, including the demigods, and the demigods sometimes are not just, let's say, qualified entities to perform a role in this universe. Sometimes, well, they are all empowered by the Lord. It is the Shakti of the Lord which enables them to perform their various duties. In some ways we see in a state it's also the empowerment of a king enables someone to act in such and such a role. Anyone who's taken a position of responsibility in ISKCON, which is not the easiest thing to do, but one understands that we may have some karmic reaction which gives us some knowledge or ability to act in such and such a way, but that is also coming from Krishna. And the empowerment to enact one's service in a Krishna conscious way depends on our depending on Krishna. Depends how much we are connecting with Krishna, and not just thinking I am the doer. In the material world, it's karmic. People who have performed good karma in the past, and they get a position of leadership. And it's also the Lord's arrangement, you could say, for enacting a particular change in history or a particular adjustment of some kind. And in Krishna consciousness, it's all about taking shelter of the Lord. And when we take some responsibility on behalf of the Lord, then one really has to take shelter of the Lord and the mercy which the Lord showers in this world in the form of the process of bhakti, etc. So we'll read the verse today, Devotees are also Yashyasti Bhakti Bhagavata Kinchana Gunaisava Tatta Samasata Suro. I compared with devotional service with all the qualities of the demigods manifest in the presence of a devotee. So this is referring to a devotee who's, you could say, connected to whatever degree we're connected, those qualities will manifest. They're not something to be implemented in terms, you can practice the path of awakening those qualities, but not that we can, artificially impose those qualities in our lives. They awaken naturally as one's connection with Krishna evolves. So let's see what today's verse says. It's text 25, is that right? 25? 25. Please repeat. Brahma Bhavacha Tatra Etya Munibhi Narada Adibhi Devai Sa Anucharai Sakam Girbihi Vrishanam Aidayan Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya Munibhir Naradadibhi Devai Sanucharai Sakam Girbir Vrishanam Aidayan Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya Munibhir Naradadibhi Devai Sanucharai Sakam Girbir Vrishanam Aidayan Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya Munibhir Naradadibhi Devai Sanucharai Sakam Girbhir Vrishanam Aidayan
Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya
Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya
Munibhir Naradadibhir Devai Sanucharai Sakam Girbhir Vrishanam
Aidayan
Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya
Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya Munibhir Naradadibhi Devai Sanucharai Sakam Ladies, Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya Munibhir Naradadibhi Devai Sanucharai Sakam Girbhir Vrishanam Aidayan Brahma Bhavascha Tatraitya Munibhir Naradadibhi Devai Sanucharai Sakam Girbhir Vrishanam Aidayan Brahma, the supreme, four-headed demigod. Vavaksha, and Lord Shiva. Tatra, there. Etya, arriving. Munibihi, accompanied by great sages. Narada Adibihi, by Narada and others. Devaihi, and by demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna. Sanucharai, with their followers. Vrishnam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bestow blessings upon everyone. Idayan, pleased. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada, Devala and Vyas, and by other demigods like Indra, Chandra and Varuna, invisibly approached the room of Devaki, where they all joined in offering their respectful obeisances and prayers to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bestow blessings upon everyone. Purport. Jo Buddha Sargo Lokesmin Daiva Asura Eva Cha. That's from the Padma Purana. There are two classes of men. The Daivas and the Asuras. For those who don't know, the Daivas are the pious or the demigods, and the Asuras are the non-devotees or the demoniac. And there is a great difference between them. Kamsa, at that time, for those who have been tuning in, was, you could say, assumed the position of the ruler of everything within his capacity. Everywhere he could, he was trying to be the controller. But he was an asura. He was demoniac. He was demon. Was always planning how to kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or his mother, Devaki. This is the nature of a demon. Various ways that, in this case, directly speaking, Kamsa was directly out to kill Krishna. It wasn't just to deny it, or to try to cover his existence, change the philosophy or something, change the scriptures, try to ban religion, or whatever, different ways that Asuras try to assert their control and offend the Supreme Lord. And this is a long story. Thus, talking about Kamsa here, which Maharaj talked on last day, Janananda Maharaj talked about a little bit yesterday, of course. He was also Krishna conscious. Because he was thinking of Krishna. I sometimes wonder, this personality, what is his name? Richard Dawkins. Some of you have heard of Richard Dawkins. I see your faces smiling, etc. Is he one of your heroes? Is he your Siksha guru? Just the sound of his name brings a smile to some devotees' faces. He's quite famous. I presume he's still quite famous as, what would you say? He would fall into this category. I mean, we don't really know him. From what I've heard, he would fall into the category of an asura based on this definition. That one who's trying to deny God, opposing the will of God, trying to negative, critical, whatever. He's written one book. What is it called?
Delusion.
God's illusion? Delusion. God's delusion. This illusion of thinking that God exists. There cannot be a God. And it's like Stephen Hawkins, another one, both from England. Stephen Hawkins and Richard Dawkins. Almost right. Hog and dog. Excuse me. But that's how Bhagavatam describes them. Stephen Hawking, one of his statements is, because everything is going on so systematically and in order, this is proof that God doesn't exist. We don't need God. It's all going on nicely. You don't need a God. What do you need God for? What's he got to do with it? And of course, simplistically speaking, it's easy to, let's say, oh, that sounds good. No need to worry about God anymore. Just get on with it. Well, the atheistic, demoniac mentality, which Krishna is reciprocating with. He's equal to all. So in one sense, this Dawkins, Richard Dawkins or Dawkins? Dawkins or Kins, I'm not sure, whatever it is. And, but his book, although it's not personal, it's more of an impersonal approach, you could say, but his book is full of God doesn't exist. God, 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 God. He must be dreaming of God. He's completely infatuated with God. He doesn't know much about his personal nature, but the principle, he may be the most God-conscious person on the planet. But he's a demon. Like Kamsa. He couldn't get Krishna out of his mind. Day and night. Like torment. Can you imagine? Somebody you hate, for whatever reason. And everywhere you go, and every time your mind, they keep cropping up. There they are. You go to the bank and there's your worst enemy behind the counter. You're the parking man, the meter man. It's your worst enemy. It's the same person popping up everywhere you go. You sit down to eat and that guy's serving prasadam. What a torment. Wherever you go, there he is. You can't escape, huh? You go to sleep and wow, you wake up a second, there that guy is there. Everywhere. In the bathroom, even going past stool, there he is, watching you. Ah! Hell! It's hellish. That's what cancer was going through practically. What's the solution? Get rid of him. Get rid of him. Gotta kill him. That's generally speaking, when we're having a problem, we try to get rid of what we think the cause of the problem is, but we don't really know the cause. Something external. Get rid of it. Get rid of this guy and all my problems will be solved. Right? This guy and this woman. Get rid of them. People go to extremes. Even they get rid of their own body when they can't think of anything else sometimes. Don't know what the problem is. So Bhagavatam, you hear from the right side, of course, solves the real problem. Let's read on. Kamsa, being an asura, was always planning how to kill the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or his mother, because she, at that time, of course, Krishna had desired or decided to appear in her womb, and Kamsa was convinced that his death was in the womb of Devaki. Thus, he was also Krishna conscious. And we can read that in the 7th canto. Narada Muni speaking about the equality, I think, speaking there. Anyway, whoever it is. Beautiful verses there describing how, maybe you can bring, I don't know if you can find it, the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, you can read it. The equality of the Lord, and how even one who is inimical to the Lord ultimately gets the benefit. Thus he was also Krishna conscious, but devotees are Krishna conscious favorably. This devotional service is supposed to be favorable, not unfavorable. It's supposed to be anukul. Anukulina Krishna Anushilanam. Supposed to be favorable. Not supposed. We see in relationships in this world that they often start off very favorable because they're based upon my own sense gratification. They're not very deep. They turn unfavorable after a while. You ever notice that? Many times even in man-woman relationships, they become very unfavorable after a while. Very negative. Because they're not based upon the real essence of relationship. What is really favorable. What is the speciality of a devotee meaning favorable? What does it mean? Favorable. What's the kind of the underlying attitude of being favorable?
You want to please?
Want to please who?
The person.
The other person, okay.
According to the will.
Pardon?
According to the will.
Of the other person. According to the will of the other person. So that's important to add that extra word. You may have your own concept of how to please that person. It's, you could say, a sentiment in the right direction, but it's not with proper knowledge, it's not with maturity. It's still based upon my own perception. So that's where Guru Shastra Sadhu come in. The demons, they take the Guru Shastra Sadhu also. We heard yesterday from Maharaja how Shukracharya is a very learned person, for instance. He knows the scripture. Hiranyakashipu knew the scripture. Ravana was a very learned scholar. Extremely learned. They were very learned. But what did they use Guru Shastra Sadhu for? They had their gurus. They respected brahmanas up to a point also. They studied scriptures. But what did they use it for? For their own power, for their own sense gratification, to be able to control, the power is the same thing, and to convince people to follow them. But they have their own agenda. It's not God's agenda. Everyone in this material world, to different degrees, we all have our own agendas. Even in Krishna consciousness movement. Not in Krishna consciousness, but in the Krishna consciousness movement is related but different. We see things from how it affects me. We get upset, we quarrel, argue, etc. Krishna consciousness is meant for a gradual transformation from seeing me in the center to seeing Krishna in the center. Is that right? Is that what we're here for? And that's what Shastra's for, isn't it? I mean, it may start at a very low level, ABCs, but ultimately Bhagavatam is like the pinnacle of the purpose of the Shastra. To put Krishna in the center. And 10th canto is the completion of that should say, process, is all about the pastimes of Krishna. And the demigods, because they're agents of the Lord, they're working on his behalf. As soon as they act, even in ordinary dealings, as soon as let's say the Minister of Defense, I guess you have a Minister of Defense in France, acts against the principle of the government's will, is a problem, isn't it? Suddenly he orders all the troops to attack the Parliament House or something, is a big problem. He's acting against his, proper behavior that we were discussing weeks ago. Now, if the parts of the body act against the will of the body, you've got a problem. You've got a problem. And that happens. Whereas diseases cause it. You have a problem. So we have a problem here. And the material world is like that. Everyone is, although we're supposed to be, we are in fact part and parcel of the whole, we're trying to act against the will of the whole. We're trying to act independently. So by following scripture, that tendency to see separately from Krishna, to see myself in the center, Atmendriya, is gradually monitored, at least monitored, so it is not excessive. And step by step we can see what is our real welfare and what is the real solution to our problems, is that we're consciously seeing things separately from Krishna or the Supreme Personality. And consequently, like a child separated from its parents, or a fish out of water, struggles. We struggle with each other, struggle with our senses, struggle with the energies around us, struggle with fulfilling our desires, struggle against the nature of the material world, birth, death, disease, and old age. We're struggling. And devotees, we're still struggling in various ways, sometimes depending on our position, but we're all struggling with our minds, at least that much. Struggling, what am I going to do? Struggling with health, struggling with so many desires, so on and so forth. Struggling with each other sometimes, because we're not putting Krishna in the center. And even if we are, so say, putting Krishna in the center, we're interpreting that according to our own imperfect perception. This is my idea. This is Willem. I'm serving Krishna too, but we're serving Krishna according to our own idea, our own interpretation. You can extract, Krishna allows this also in the beginning stages, extracting this and that out of the scriptures to fit our conditioning. And we try to impose it on others as if that's an absolute standard. It's a relative standard. Gradually coming to the absolute. Takes time. So even the demigods sometimes miss the point, don't they? They have, it's written down, it's guided there, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. But they also act out of whack sometimes. You ever notice that? Well, we don't notice it, we hear about it. Where's an example of that? We heard about Indra yesterday. We're hearing about Indra yesterday. What did he do? He did a lot of things. He was a good example, isn't it? Of an agent of God acting a bit out of, we call it in English, we say whack. I don't know if that means anything to you. Out of order. In Australia, they say out of whack, don't they? Out of whack. Hey mate, you're out of whack. Because then they whack you to get you back into whack again, to shape again. But out of order. Give one example of Indra acting out of order. There are loads of them. Give one.
Ahalya one.
What's that?
He goes in disguise.
Oh, yes. What an amazing example of this. What was her husband's name? Gautam. He disguised himself as Gautama Muni and went to her to have illicit connection. Boom, and then another story. She became a stone. Anyway, that's another thing. And so he is sometimes overwhelmed by position, sense gratification. Although he's like the king of the demigods, Indra. Well, there are different Indras. Sometimes the stories are not always like the same Indra that we always think of. What type of demigod? This guy seems to never ending, getting up to trouble. Huh? What's wrong with the guy? You can go on and on and on. This seems never ending. Is he just like an exam? Krishna's using him all the time to, show how not to do things or what? But there are many Indras. Different universes, different millenniums. It doesn't always mean it's the same character, Indra's a post. If you just take it, for instance, the Minister of Defense is an eternal person. A Minister of Health. You can have an unending list of the mistakes that they made. But it's different people take the posts. Different individuals. So, anyway, we see from this example of Ahalya, and other examples, perhaps more famous example. What's the most famous example, probably? Govardhan. Govardhan Hill, huh? You've got to hear that's coming up. How Indra, out of pride in this case, it wasn't out of lust, it was out of pride. You see, pretty much all the 6 enemies manifest in Indra at different times, through different pastimes. Lust, greed, anger, illusion, madness and envy. And here is pride. What was that pride? Who does this little coward boy think he is? He's challenging my authority. I should be worshipped. I'm not just the king of the heavens. I'm also the Lord of the rain. Huh? And everyone should pay their bills. If you don't pay your water bill, what happens? What happens? Namacharya, are you here?
Yeah, they will close the tap.
They turn off the tap. Even if you do pay your bill, sometimes the tap gets turned off here. But if you don't pay the bill, they'll turn off your water. Is that right? You do? Okay. You have to pay your bill. Who do these guys think they are? They're not paying their bills. In the demigods, the bills are offering sacrifices, offerings to the demigods, prayers and so on. They stop doing it. Oh, they have to be punished. Punished. I'm going to devastate their whole village. Kill them all. Quite a scene. And there's Krishna's agent turning against him. You sometimes see that in the countries. Revolt. Ministers revolt. Let's read on. So that sometimes we also become unfavorable. We act unfavorably to the will of Krishna. We also have to think, what would Krishna, it's a great test. What if I could realize Krishna is sitting next to me now, would I leave my mobile phone on? Would I do what I'm doing? Would I think what I'm doing? Would I behave the way I'm doing? This is one way of thinking of Krishna's will. It may not be with realization, but at least it's with consciousness. Huh? What would Krishna like? Same even on a more day-to-day basis. Prabhupada, he comes, he's still here, through his writings and lectures and so many other ways, showing us how we can act in this way. Whether it's deity worship, although don't just whimsically dress the deities, right? The way I like it. Maybe there's a little element of that, of course. But ultimately, otherwise you might like jeans and t-shirts and guitars instead of flutes. And you could do all sorts of things, huh? Like a tuxedo. Is it tuxedo hat or something? You like your hat. You could do all the boots. Some boots on. You could do all kinds of nonsense, according to I'm doing it. Krishna looks nice with boots on, you know. From my perspective, you might think like that. And we may have seen it. I've been in temples in Malaysia where they have dressed Krishna not Krishna, demigods, in crazy ways. Little Saraswati with, she had a nickel mobile phone there. He playing guitar. All sorts of things. Whimsical. Yeah, they're serving Krishna, serving Saraswati. But not according to what they want. We find out what they want. Let's hear the Shastras there. Guru Shastra, Sadhu. That is Krishna, favorable Krishna consciousness. It's a transformation. We learn how to cook. You don't just cook whatever you like. If you want to please somebody, you find out what they like. That's how the transformation takes place. There is obviously a balance here according to time and circumstance, but ultimately, all that matters is what Krishna wants. Because that's our constitution, and real ultimate nature is to bring pleasure to Krishna. And Krishna's constitution is? That's a big question, isn't it? In regards to this, is he simply wants to bring happiness to those who are bringing him happiness. His love. Absolute love. The slow process of awakening real love. Love in this world is a reflection of that real love, perverted. And generally love in this world is strongly influenced by how it affects me and how I like it. And I love this person because I feel pleasure in their association. It is not the spirit of the pure devotees of the Lord. That will be there, but that's not the motive. Their motive is simply to please Krishna. Happiness comes unendingly showered upon them because they're selfless in their devotion. Devotional service is supposed to be. Selfless means without any personal, let's say, desire to obtain for my pleasure. It's not a business deal, some kind of pleasure for myself. In the beginning it's natural. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. If you said chant Hare Krishna and whatever happens, don't worry about it. You might be miserable, you might get shot, you might be arrested, you might be whatever, depressed. Who's going to chant? Chant Hare Krishna, be happy. Come on, smile. No, look, you miserable bunch out there. Come on. Take my glasses off so I can't see. Smile! If you go along the street on Harinam Sankirtan with a real morose looking face and kind of like hardly moving, it's not so attractive. You might attract a few bums, a few drunkards or something, I don't know. Depressed people. Can I join you? International Society for Depressed Consciousness. It's not very attractive. What attracts people in many ways, there may be other reasons, but it's especially happy when they see the devotees happy. You can't manufacture it necessarily, but it is a fact that Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is joyfully performed. To Shanticha Ramanticha. You hear joyful dancing and chanting. It's something which is related to being happy anyway. People in general dance and chant when they're happy. So the Sankirtan is very happy and joyful. People are attracted. Brahma is so powerful that he is in charge of creating an entire universe, yet he personally came to receive the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was excited. Krishna's appearing. Of course, there's a long story about how Bhumi and the demigods went to the shore of the ocean of milk and prayed for the Lord's help, and he assured them he would come to relieve the world of her burden, and so on and so forth. Remove the demoniac. It's the same principle. We have that demon within us. We have to approach Krishna in the same way. Humble mood, dependent mood. The deities, taking that humble mood only by their grace is anything useful possible, anything spiritually beneficial. We take shelter of them, not of our whimsical mind or our interpretation of what's to be done and what's not to be done, using scriptures, but through the veneer of our imperfect mind and senses. Oh, we take shelter of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Sometimes we're lost as to what to do, maybe lost as to where we even are. We're helpless. We take shelter of the holy name. So taking shelter of Krishna. So here the demigods are, they're taking shelter of Krishna, but they're coming in joy. Another, you could say, like devotees, they run to Mangalarti at 4:30 in the morning or 4:20 in the morning to get here joyfully. I see, you can hear them once I'm asleep, all dancing and singing on their way to Mangalarti. Joyful to get the association of the merciful Shishi Radha Govinda Madhava Krishna Balaram Gaunitai. It's a festival. It's joyful. Or deity greeting. It's a little easier, that one. We've usually woken up by deity greeting. And it's a joyful event. To get that. The curtains are opening, anticipation. Krishna's about to be born. He's behind the curtains, he's almost ready. You can hear the pujaras getting everything ready. One standing outside with a conch shell. Someone's, maybe about to, someone's ding on the bell. Krishna's about to appear. And it does, it's an amazing effect. Even non-devotees, I remember when we were in New Zealand, Auckland, we'd have these groups of elderly people. They have these, I don't know if they still, Janananda here?
Yeah.
They still have these mystery tours at New Varshan with elderly people from different clubs who would come sometimes then. That was Madhura's speciality. They were like, all old people over 70. It's like over 70s clubs, And I'd be eligible actually to go on one of these tours. And they go to the winery, they go to the whatever, all different places in the area, adventure tour. And we would be regularly on their stop-in. They would come to the Hare Krishna Community Farm and School in Auckland. This would be one of the things. Some of them didn't like it. They didn't know where they were going till they got there. We have free lunch for them all, so that was a little bit attractive. They like the school and the farm and the this and that, and then they come to... We wouldn't show them the deities. That would be the last thing on the menu. Because we knew that a lot of them would immediately become, what is this? But most of them, it wasn't what is this. It was what is this, but in a favourable way. Oh my goodness, many of them would say, I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. They're not necessarily seeing the beautiful smiling face of Krishna. They're seeing the beautiful flowers, the decorations, the devotions coming through, the devotees who serve them. They're seeing for their senses, it's like a gorgeous. Can I take a picture? Of course you can. They're all there, click, 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 click. Good fortune, huh? It's the beginning of their favourable devotion. And then, of course, top it all, we would fill them up with prasadam. Amazing. Some of them would be really almost sick, but they couldn't resist it. But they'd be coming back from, I'm not supposed to eat that, but it's so delicious, I can't resist it. More halava and cream. Halava and cream would be a must of these elderly people, believe it or not. I don't know if they left their bodies shortly after or not, but they certainly got a good dose of halava and cream. I don't know if you ever saw that, any of you, but it's amazing experience seeing dozens and dozens and just whooping. They were like new bactors. Eating, they couldn't stop eating. Incredible. So the demigods are coming here. Mother Devi gets pregnant. The same thing happened with Sachi Mata, huh? when she was bearing Lord Nimai, with Nimai, Lord Chaitanya in her womb. The demigods invisibly appeared there in the house of Sachimata. And they appeared there. It was exciting. They want to come. Even in Indian villages, when they have all kinds of ceremonies during the pregnancy, all the neighbors come. At least sometimes it's just the ladies, sometimes children, sometimes virgin girls. All kinds of different ceremonies are there, right? To, various auspicious ceremonies. The child's in the womb, the mother's getting more and more pregnant, and it's exciting. Huh? It's exciting. It's a festival. Well, to speak of the birth of the child, they're all getting exciting. In this case, there's a specific aspect. It's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their life and soul, the saving grace. He's the only one who can really solve the problem. He's about to appear. Of course, there's a fear there. The Kamsa. Even Prabhupada prayed like that. He was afraid that, the demons might, stop this Krishna consciousness movement. The devotees fears like that, but that may happen too. There's a threat. Kali Yuga particularly is a threat. But don't worry. Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come. There's a beautiful song. How does it go? A song of the Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Sukher Kava. How does it go? And what's that line? Aranaika. How's it go? Achandale de nam Nitoi doyo moi Arakai. How's it go, the first line? Anyway, the song, a very beautiful song. Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, have no fear of the age of Kali. Lord Nityananda has now appeared. Kali will flee in fear of Lord Nityananda and the Sankirtan movement. No worries. Kali will flee if one is absorbed in this Lord Nityananda's Sankirtan movement, chanting the holy name. Is our shelter, our only shelter. In one sense it said the holy name is our only shelter. Taking shelter of the holy name. This is the will of the Lord. It's the demigods. They're doing their duties as best they can. They sometimes make mistakes. But they're coming now to glorify the Lord with Vedic prayers and so on and so forth. So in this age, this position we're in, we're very fortunate. It's very easy. We just have to worship the Lord, chant the holy name of Krishna. Sankirtan. Spread the Sankirtan movement. And Lord Nityananda is there, and we have no fear. Just like a child, when his little child with his mother and father doesn't have any fear, even though there is danger knocking on the doorstep. He's not afraid, because Mummy and Daddy are there. He has no idea their capacity to protect him, but he feels, or she feels, protected by the parents. When we take shelter of the holy name, and not take shelter of our mind, which will conjure up all kinds of, imperfect, you could say, imperfect judgments. Take shelter of the holy name, take shelter of scripture, take shelter of the Vaishnava association, and we have a good chance of being protected. So they came. Brahma was very powerful. Lord Shiva is always jubilant. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes very nicely how Lord Brahma is like the cultivator. The appearance of the Lord is like a downpour of mercy. Shower of mercy. Sankirtan movement is like a shower of mercy. And Lord Brahma is like the cultivator. When rain falls and you need to cultivate the soil, he's like the cultivator. And when the rain comes and it's the peacocks start to dance with their full feathers. Lord Shiva is like that dancing peacock in the field of devotion which is being cultivated by Lord Brahma. And then all the demigods, they're all they're all working there to grow, pick, distribute, and they're all taking this advantage. Everyone's joyful in this great festival of the Lord's appearance. So this Sankirtan movement is like that. Every single living entity drowned in the ecstasy of the Sankirtan movement. And what to speak of Narada? So Lord Shiva is jubilant. Prabhupada says jubilant. He doesn't use that word here. Enchanting the holy name of the Lord. But he does use that statement with devotees. He said devotees, oftentimes before they come here, they're dull-faced and morose. And now they're like jubilant dancing peacocks. Right? Jubilant, he probably uses the word, jubilant dancing peacocks. Isn't it beautiful, the peacocks dancing? You ever seen a peacock dance? They're full feathers. In India you see it, you used to see it a lot, you still see it sometimes. You've seen pictures if you haven't seen it literally. Right, and mystifying, even Dawkins is bewildered by the peacock. Even, what was his name? That was one of the most mystifying things to another similar person. What was it? Charles Darwin. Darwin. He was also from England, wasn't he? Darwin? They're really good at producing these. From another one. Charles Darwin. The peacock was a bit of a mystery for him, the eyes of the peacock. I couldn't work it out, how this evolved. There didn't seem to be anything on the evolutionary scale which would indicate how on earth this peacock is. And similarly, there's nothing on the normal scale. How on earth are you so happy, you Hare Krishnas, dancing like peacocks? What are you doing? You don't have nothing. Then we see Lord Shiva. And what to speak of Narada Muni? Narada Muni Bhajaya Vina Radhika Ramana Nami. What does that mean? Song sometimes you sing, isn't it? Narada Muni Bhajaya Vina Radhika Ramana Nami. What's it mean?
You worship Radha Krishna with his vina?
Pardon? Huh?
He's worshipping Radha Krishna with his vina.
Yeah. Bhajaya is worshipping with his veena, Radhika Ramana, worshipping the Lord by playing his veena for their pleasure. Everywhere he goes is for the pleasure of Krishna. Narada Muni is always chanting the glories of the Lord, and his engagement is to travel all over the universe. We don't go all over, we may go all over France or somewhere, but he goes all over the universe and find a devotee or make someone a devotee. He's you could say he's our acharya in the sense in the Sankirtan movement. Sometimes it's said, we've heard, and even in Sohos, now Soho Street, I don't know if they still got both of them, but in Bari Place, Prabhupada had us to put a Vyasa-san, 2 Vyasa-sans in the temple there. There's a little debate over there for. One for Narada Muni, one for Lord Brahma, some say Vyasa, but for Narada Muni and Lord Brahma. Because we had 2 little Vyasa-sans either side of the altar. Very small room. But either side of the altar are Vyasa-sans, one for Narada and one for Vyasa, for Brahma. And Prabhupada said that, they come when the kirtan's going on, they come. So we have to offer them a Vyasa-san. We can't see them, they're invisible, but they may come. When they see the glorification, they may, who knows, they're here now taking darshan of Krishna Bala Govinda Madhava. We can't see. Who knows? We can't see. Devaki couldn't see, although she was aware something was happening there. We don't know. On Harinam Sankirtan said, Prabhupada says, sometimes Narada Muni appears, and when he sees the mlechas and yavanas dancing and chanting on the Sankirtan, he can't stop laughing. He's in ecstasy seeing all, these people were whatever they were before, meat eaters, drug addicts, God knows what they were. But he sees them dancing and chanting, with tilak on, saris and dhotis, and dancing on the street like mad men and women in ecstasy. At least we call it ecstasy, not exactly the ecstasy of the transcendental pure devotees, but it's related. In very great happiness, on and on and on, and seeing people coming and joining in and taking the books. Narada Muni is overwhelmed. This is what he's trying to do. And he's so happy to see that, the this is going on all by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. That's millions of people are getting this opportunity unknowingly to worship the Lord. You could say in the womb or in the heart or whatever way you want to describe it. Unmanifested form of the Lord to them, but they're unknowingly worshipping Krishna, taking part. And what a glorious event. Narada is very, very happy. Even a hunter, there was a famous story of Mrigari the hunter. And Mrigari the hunter, he was considered to be a very cruel person. Narada Muni was one time traveling through the jungle and he saw all kinds of animals lying there half dead. Birds and boars and wild animals in the forest or jungle lying there half dead, screaming in agony. But what is going on here? He went further and he saw a hunter, cruel looking man behind a tree with his bow and arrow waiting to shoot some creature. And the hunter saw him. And Narada Muni, because he has mystical powers, he brought all the animals, he cured them. They all came back to health and ran away. The hunter became disturbed. Why are you interfering? You look like a saintly man, but why are you interfering with my business? He said, what business is this? This is my business. And what you're doing, they're only half killing them. And they're suffering so much. Why are you doing this? What's wrong with half killing the animals? It's nice to see them suffer. What's wrong with this? My father taught it to me. Why are you telling me something wrong with this? What's wrong? Good, I like to see them suffer. Pretty demoniac. And Narada Muni said, well, at least you kill them outright. What difference does it make? And Narada Muni gave him, out of his causeless mercy, a little vision what would happen. And suddenly he visualized all of these animals and birds coming back and doing the same thing to him, putting him in unending agony, karmic agony. And he realized, my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm doing what I think is pleasing to me, but actually I'm causing my own suffering immensely. So then he was scared stiff. It's another way that sometimes people turn to God, isn't it? Out of fear, suffering or whatever. What can I do? What am I going to do now? So then he asked Narada. Narada gave him instructions what to do. And he followed those instructions. He surrendered to Narada and followed them. And what happened is, of course, life was transformed. He couldn't bear to see even an ant suffer after that. Not even an ant, not to speak of an animal. He would carefully move the ants away on the path as he walked along. Later on, Narada Muni came to see him with one of his close associates, Parvat Muni. And Parvat Muni was surprised. He saw this man who was moving the ants away. So, what? So this is not surprising. Anyone who meets a great soul like you, that such transformation is not surprising. Just see what a transformation has taken place by the association of Srila Prabhupada. It's not one, it's millions. In fact, billions. Everyone on this planet. To some degree, it may be very distant. Something has entered in there. What to speak of those who will allow more to enter in? Isn't it? Though I don't know how many years all of you have been associated, but some have been associating for over 50 years. It may be hard to remember, but it's not that. If we're looking back to our early life, what were we doing? Where were we? Some of you may be just days away, and now you're chanting Hare Krishna, following certain principles, maybe even assisting in spreading consciousness of Krishna. A few days ago we were in the pub, smoking a cigarette, maybe drinking some liquor, eating some meat, maybe having illicit sex, some type of sinful activity of some kind. There may be still elements of that there, but basically enormous. This problem is the miracle. It is a miracle. It's the mercy of Nityananda. Such a transformation is taking place. The demons will object. They'll try to stop. But even when when the movement was not almost, but when the government of Germany tried to squash or destroy the Hare Krishna movement in Germany in 74, 75, something like that. Arresting all the devotees, confiscating everything, the book, closing the bank accounts, everything was taken away basically, at least for some time. And terrible newspaper reports were there. Really aggressive newspaper reports. There wasn't this Facebook and all these things in those days. Newspapers were there, television was there. Terrible reports. In Germany. And Prabhupada, somebody brought some of those newspaper reports to Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, we're having such bad publicity in Germany now, it's terrible, what should we do? Prabhupada looked at the report, but of course he didn't read German. But every other line, the name Krishna was there. Hare Krishna, Krishna this, Krishna that, Hare Krishna that, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's all he could see. It's like if you meet somebody, and they speak one word of your language, that's all you really pick up on. Can't understand anything else they say. If there's a different language, they're speaking a different language. And you don't know that language. But if one word is there, you speak one word of their language, bonjour, monsieur, bonjour, whatever, I don't even know how to say that. But it attracts your attention, you can understand it, you pick up on it. Everyone's like that, animals, everything. If they relate to some sound, that's what they pick up on. They can't relate to the rest of it. It doesn't mean anything. So when Prabhupada saw on every page, every line almost, Krishna's name, Prabhupada said, this is a very good newspaper report. Everyone's hearing about Krishna, even negatively. When pretty much in 1 hour, the government of Germany did more to bring Krishna consciousness to the people's minds than we've done in 50 years, practically. Because everyone in Germany was asking, who's this Krishna? What is this Hare Krishna? Never heard of them before. What's this all about? Right? It's the beginning of all auspiciousness. Yeah. Such is this movement. Every aspect of it is good. Say every part of an elephant is valuable. Every aspect is good. Even if it is apparently negative, it still has an ultimate benefit on the receiver. We've finished the purple, a couple of lines left, I think. Srila Sanatana Goswami, in his Toshini, says that the word Narada Adivi means that Narada and the demigods were accompanied by other saintly persons like Sanatana. So many were coming, all of whom came to congratulate or welcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though Kamsa was planning to kill Devaki. He too awaited the arrival of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Sankirtan movement is like this is Lord's appearance in this age, Kali Kaler, Namarupa, the Krishna avatar, that Krishna is appearing in this age of Kali in the form of Namarupa, the Sankirtan movement, which is going everywhere and bringing, showering that mercy, as Krishna did when he appeared on this planet 5,000 years or so ago. Now the Sankirtan movement is taking that same relief, same mercy everywhere. So let's hopefully take advantage of this opportunity and work favorably to spread this Sankirtan movement everywhere. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions? Maybe, I don't know, maybe tomorrow we could go on Harinam Sankirtan. Maharaj loves, Janananda Maharaj loves Harinam Sankirtan. I don't know what the schedule is tomorrow, so I can't say, but would it be possible to go on Harinam tomorrow, Friday? We could go to Chateauroux for a change. All the time going to tour. Why do we go to Chateauroux? Is it possible?
Yes.
Those, obviously other services are priority, but if you're free, talk to your authorities, and I don't know what the best time is. What's the best time? We used to go in the morning in Chateauroux. It's busier than the afternoon. Usually late morning, and lunchtime was the best. Used to be. I don't know what it is. You know? Is it late morning and lunchtime a little busier? Used to be. People come out of their offices and go to eat and shop late morning. Afternoon's a bit quiet. Evening, of course, is good, but we won't be able to do that. But late morning, maybe. Think about it. I'm willing to come if something is there. I hope Janananda Maharaj is not busy, that he can join us. Chateauroux, we need to spread every town and village the holy name of Krishna. This will counteract the ill effects of Kali Yuga, the Sankirtan. Everyone's got a bit of kamsa inside them, so it's removed, let's say, made favourable by the Sankirtan movement. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Guru Janananda Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Ara Naikir Kali Raboy, that's right. Ara